Now for 26.9 Radio News. Important daily American news right in your home. Hi, I'm Tierney.
And I'm Elise, and thank you for tuning in to 26.9 Radio News. It's approximately 87 degrees and fairly cloudy outside on May the 7th, 1965. Looks like we're in for some rain, so make sure you stay inside to not get wet.
Today, we will be talking about a very important issue that seems to be exponentially growing larger and larger. It's called the Civil Rights Movement. The African American Civil Rights Movement is changing American history drastically and impacting how we live today and how we live in the future.
It's crazy to see how much this movement has grown over the past decade, becoming a national phenomenon.
Yes, it's so interesting to see the beginnings of equality in our nation, since up until less than 100 years ago, African Americans were enslaved on plantations.
That's right. Slavery has been around in the American colonies since the beginnings of colonization in the 17th century. The slaves were so poorly treated and badly beaten by their plantation owners.
They were also bought and sold, sometimes being separate from their families. I can't imagine being separate from my family.
I agree. This terrible treatment of slaves was really unjustified since the slaves helped build the nation, giving it economic superiority. So that has had a huge impact on the country as we know it.
Thankfully, Congress proposed the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments.
What were those amendments again?
Well, to sum it up, the 13th Amendment made slavery illegal in the United States and freed all slaves. Then, the 14th declared that all U.S. citizens have equal rights, regardless of race. And finally, the 15th Amendment says that race, color, or being a former slave does not interfere with a citizen's right to vote.
That's interesting what you said about the 15th Amendment, because we all know that just recently literacy tests, poll taxes, and grandfather clauses restricted African Americans from voting.
Hopefully that will be changed soon.
Oh, by the way, Tierney, can we talk about the Jim Crow law abolishment? I can't believe it's only a year ago in July 1964.
Yeah, me too. I'm so thankful for that. Those were horrible.
Oh, this just in! A Voting Rights Act is to be enacted in August by President Lyndon B. Johnson. Apparently, it is supposed to ban all of the discriminatory voting practices that have been adopted in many of the southern states, like those god-awful literacy tests.
Yay, finally African Americans will be able to vote and have a say in government.
Okay, now back to the Jim Crow laws. Do you know how they got their name?
No, how?
Well, it started when a white actor by the name of Thomas Dartmouth Rice, he became a star by playing a fictional, clumsy, dim-witted black slave. He even painted his skin black, called blackface. His skits became popular, and the name Jim Crow became a popular derogatory term for African Americans.
Oh no, I did not want to know that. Ugh, that's so terrible of him. I would like to have a word with him and give him a piece of my mind. Anyway, the Jim Crow laws were created in 1876 just to segregate African Americans from whites.
Yep, that's right. They separated blacks from whites from water fountains, schools, buses, and even prison.
Okay, let's take a stroll down memory lane when the civil rights was just beginning. It all started when one Miss Rosa Parks sat in the whites-only section of the bus down in Montgomery, Alabama. Let's see what our friend Miss Parks has to say about this. Hi, Miss Parks.
Hello, no need to be so formal. Just call me Rosa. Thank you for inviting me today.
It's always a pleasure to have you on our show. So, tell us your story that brought so much attention and awareness to the African American cause.
Well, just an average day for me. I was on the bus on my way home from work at the department store. I work as a seamstress. I was very tired and hungry, and my feet were so sore. I just wanted a place to sit. I didn't mean for any trouble, nor did I want to make it a big deal. I just wanted to stand up for my rights.
Well, technically you sat down for your rights. Am I right?
Haha, good one. I see what you did there.
But it was a very big deal. It in fact inspired so many other African Americans to protest and fight for their rights. An example of this is the Montgomery bus boycott. Can you tell us a little bit more about this day?
Yes, of course. A common misconception is that I was sitting in the whites-only section of the bus, but I was not.
Wow, that's so interesting. So then, where were you sitting?
Well, I was sitting in the middle section of the bus that we, as African Americans, are allowed to sit in, as long as there are no whites standing anywhere in the bus, because back then, We had to give up our seats for them.
So, wait. Let me get this straight. You were sitting in the middle of the bus. Then what happened?
I was sitting in my seat in a row with 3 other African Americans when the bus started to fill up. I was clearly sitting in the blacks only section because my seat was behind the dividing line separating the white from the black. The driver, noticing that some whites were left standing, moved the line back a row, causing me and 3 other black passengers to have to give up our seats.
Wow. Overstepping his boundary as a bus driver. Is that even legal for him to ask you to move?
Technically, it's not, but a lot of Montgomery bus drivers have gotten into the practice of forcing people to move. I personally don't agree with this, so I chose to stay in my seat while the other 3 passengers complied with the driver and gave up their seats.
Wow, that's really brave of you to decline his forceful request.
It is something I am very proud of, and despite the fact that I got arrested, I would do again if I had to. And I hope other African Americans would do the same if they find themselves in a similar situation. People always say that I didn't give up my seat because I was tired. The only tired I was tired of giving in.
This courage of yours inspired the Montgomery bus boycott lasting a little over a year. At the time of your refusal to give up your seat, did you know that it would start such a prominent movement?
At the time I was arrested, I had no idea it would turn into this. It was just a day like any other. The only thing that made it significant was the masses of people that joined in.
Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story. It was definitely very informative and beneficial for all of us and our listeners.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
All right, let's take a short break. We'll see you right after this quick advertisement from our sponsors. Diet Fizz Pop, the smooth, fizzy texture that we all know and love. Are you tired of drinking Fizz Pop but having to worry about your weight? Constantly working out but seeing no difference? Try the all-new Diet Fizz Pop. Its smooth, fizzy texture gives your taste buds a blast, and its cold, refreshing flavor is the perfect drink on a hot summer day and will make you say, ah. Stop worrying about giving up what you love for losing that extra weight, and grab an ice-cold Diet Fizz Pop.
Oh, that was a delicious glass of Diet Fizz Pop.
Welcome back to our podcast. We hope you go to your local store to pick up a Diet Fizz Pop.
This day, March 7th, 1965, will be remembered in history for years to come. Just this morning, around 600 civil rights marchers assembled in a protest against black voter suppression, and they are planning on marching to Montgomery, Alabama.
I sure hope they make it safe and sound.
Such a great cause they're marching for.
You know, this kind of reminds me of that incident a couple years ago. You know, the one where the kids marched? Something about Birmingham?
Oh, you mean the Children's Crusade, when the kids peacefully protested by marching in Birmingham? It was such a terrible outcome of that.
Yeah, it turned into chaos pretty quick, and a couple of people got hurt. I think the whites were responsible.
These people getting involved in the civil rights movement are really setting such a great example for their kids.
Yeah, these parents are teaching kids to speak out when they think something is not right.
These people are fighting not only for equality for themselves, but for equality for all future generations.
Oh, hey, remember August 8, 1963, the I Have a Dream speech by Martin Luther King Jr.? How inspirational.
Oh yeah, it was so moving and empowering. What he said really stuck with me.
I can't believe he had such courage speaking to all those civil rights activists on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial.
It was so great what he did despite all the opposition he had.
He was such a great leader, involving himself in the community, actively protesting in marches, giving sermons, participating in the bus boycott, and speaking for many activists for the moment, inspiring so many to fight for their rights.
Oh, look at the time. That concludes our 10-minute news segment today.
Remember that a small act of kindness, community service, or simply speaking out for what you believe in can make the biggest impact in the world, and making it a better place for your children and generations to come.
Thanks for tuning in today to 26.9 Radio News, keeping you informed on the ways of the world from the comfort of your home.
See y'all again tomorrow night, and out.